Hello, welcome back to another LEGO building video. We're calling this one just Scourge on the Skyscraper, named after the level in Super Mario Odyssey. And it's kind of a multi-part thing. It's going to start out, we're just building the boss from that level, because it's set in New Donk City, in the Metro Kingdom. We're building the boss from that level, which is the the Mecha Wiggler, and then we'll build some of the tanks. I forget what the tanks are called. And then we'll just build a smaller version of the new Donk City Hall. So it's not quite to scale, but I thought it would look cool, and I like how it ends up. So yeah, we're doing the Mecha Wiggler right now. We're just starting on the head segment. And all the segments are pretty much the same, so we'll really just do this one and modify it a little bit and then copy it a bunch. Yeah, I just got the eyes right there. I really like this boss's design a lot. And I tried to replicate the like mishmash of it as much as I could. I think I got pretty close. And these joints can be a little tricky to pose in LDD, just because you can't like press them against a flat surface like you would with physical pieces, but we're just kind of getting them in the general right vicinity. And at the end, in like the final picture and everything, I'll have this up like on the skyscraper wrapping around it, and it looks, I haven't even finished doing that part yet actually, but it will look really cool. I thought it looked cool so far. And this is just the little mouth, which is really just a plug that is just using to drain power from the city in the level. And I really want to do something from Super Mario Odyssey because I love that game. And I don't know. I just didn't feel like I didn't want to do the Odyssey yet for some reason. I honestly can't remember just why. So yeah, I settled on this because I thought it would be I wanted to recreate a boss, and I thought this was really like one of the more memorable ones. And I'm trying to use this flex tubing right now to kind of emulate the wires it has wrapping around it. And really the only thing that ends up being, like, the only part that ends up really being usable for that is this chain actually. So it's not like quite a wire, but I think it looks close enough for sure. And it even kind of like contributes to the like worn down sense that this has a little bit as well. And yeah, so I thought this one was the most memorable of the bosses. At least, well, one the most memorable, and two like the easiest to build, because I wasn't ready to do like a Bowser figure yet or anything, or because I am going to use custom like molded pieces, I guess custom modeled pieces for Mario, and I think I ended up doing Pauline too. So I used some custom pieces for those. And I didn't feel like I was at the skill level yet to make Peach or anything. And so yeah, I didn't want to do Peach. So I wanted to do something where Peach wasn't involved and where Bowser wasn't really involved. That would also be relatively like, I was kind of sick of all the like organic shapes, so I wanted to do something that wasn't really organic too. So I landed on this one, and I really like how it ended up looking in the end. We're just adding these little spikes sticking out the top right now all around it, and the dome on top that you shoot at, and then we'll just be, I think that's pretty much it, and then it's just the attachment point. That's really all that's left. And we'll try a couple of things to figure that out. But I think, yeah, I just end up using the ball joint and then sticking it out a couple of studs so there's room where it's not getting in the way of the other legs. And then we're just going to color it real quick. And I'm using Earth Orange. I think that color is called Earth Orange, yeah. Just kind of make it look a little rusty, and then mixing up the different grays to contribute to that feeling as well. And then just white for the spikes because those are white, and red for the plug because that's red. yeah, so that's basically it. We're just going to copy it over and do the middle segments. And those are all the same, so we'll just copy it over from there once we figure out the attachments and everything. So yeah, I love playing Odyssey so much. It was such a fun game. I literally played that nonstop when it came out. I don't have a Switch with me right now, so I couldn't go back and check, which was kind of unfortunate. But luckily there's YouTube. YouTube is a thing. And yeah, I mean, this stuff is kind of detailed, but there's renders of it. The only part that was really a detriment was for New Donk City Hall, but even then, there's YouTube videos and everything. It wasn't too much. And then we're going to build these tanks. I forget what they're called. I have to look it up because it's going to bug me. Because I knew. Because I had to, look these up to make them and get references. Mario Odyssey tank. We'll search that. They're called sherms. That's right. It was on the tip of my tongue. They're pretty cool. It was a bit difficult. I'll mess with this quite a bit. I don't remember if I do all of it on camera or not, to be honest. Because, they're just so small. And they're very... I mean, with Mario stuff in general, with Lego, it can be very hard to get the proportions and everything right, because they are very, curvy and cartoony. Which is great for Mario, but it kind of makes replicating them in Lego a little difficult at certain scales, especially this scale, actually. And I'll get into that when I make the Mario figure too, because Mario himself has that problem as far as the Lego translation goes. So I'm trying my best to just fit all the curves and the angles and everything that I want to in here without... Well, I'm really just mostly trying to fit it in there at all, just because it's such a small space. But yeah, I really like that piece for the eyes. I think that looks really nice. And I think this is more or less what I end up with. I don't know if the cannon ends up being able to move or not in the final version. I hope it does, because I like that. But right now, even the friction would be a lot, so it's not necessarily ideal. I don't think I end up letting it move, just because it was too hard to fit everything in, and I wanted to downscale everything anyway, right here. So I don't think there's any way to really fit a moving cannon in there as much as I tried. So yeah, and this is a problem with translating a lot of Mario stuff into Lego, is it's so curvy and organic and cartoony, and it looks fantastic, but if you don't match it exactly, it just doesn't look right. And I don't really know if there's any way to get around that in Lego without just insane custom pieces, and that's not something I want to do. I can throw in a custom piece every once in a while for sure, because I'm kind of trying to emulate what Lego does, and if Lego does it, then I can do it as far as I'm concerned, but nothing really beyond that. And I don't know if you saw, but I really like the technique I ended up using to attach the gun. I kind of used the 1x1 round with the pin sticking out the top and attached it with a clip sticking into the main part, attaching everything to the gun. Ended up being super satisfying. Yeah, I think right here I went and experimented off screen because I was really struggling, and once I figured it all out, I came back and built another version so everybody could see, of course. And we're just going to do the treads, and treads are another thing that can be so finicky and difficult to work with in LDD. Even just not treads themselves, but setting up all the gears and everything can be a real pain. Yeah, you can see it's going so much faster now that I figured that all out. I think I even figured out the gears and everything off screen too, so that's why I'm not really messing with it so much. So at least you get to see what it ends up being and how I got there a little bit. Yeah, I like how it ends up. Now we're cutting to New Donk City Hall. I just measured out all the different levels and how tall it needed to be, and then I like measured out how wide each of those sections was, and that's it. You can see the whole thing back behind here, but we're just working on the door first. Just building up studs on the side. I really like how this specific spot ends up looking a lot. This whole build, I never want to build. I know I complain a lot about organic shapes, but I never want to build just a square tower like this again. Oh, sorry, excuse me. For one, it was so boring, honestly. Like, it was really fun the first time, but then I had to replicate it 4 more times. Well, not necessarily, like, replicate it exactly, but I did have to rework it a lot to go, like, once I built it up the first time, just so I could fit it around the other 4 times. So, like, building it the first time was so much fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I like all the techniques I ended up using, even though it kind of does end up being a pain once I wanted to transfer it to, like, the other 4 sides and get an actual stable structure going. But yeah, it was still a ton of fun the first time. It was just the next 3 times that it wasn't so much fun. And this build took me forever. I mean, not forever. It, like, took me a couple days. But it took me a lot longer than builds usually do, because I was just dreading going back to it. And I take breaks all the time, which I probably shouldn't have been doing. But yeah, usually I can film, I'd say it's like a video, at least like 1 video's worth of building a day, which is 20-minute video. It's 6 times speed, so that's like 2 hours of building. And that's not taking into account like the preparing for it, and the getting all the reference material together, and the figuring out the techniques, figuring out what you're going to do. So I'm really not filming for a lot of that, which is why I can only do so much a day. Usually, like, my max is like 3 hours a day of actual raw building time. And even that's actually a lot. I can't really do that anymore. It was fine. I could totally do that at first, but at this point, definitely can't. It's too much. Yeah, so we're just starting on the front now, or at least the rest of it. We had the little section at the bottom, which is mostly just like plates stacked on the side right now, but you'll see that all come together when we color it. And I've kind of just kept in mind where I want the windows to be and how thick I want them to be, so I can just color it accordingly. And I'm using these cheese slopes right here. They won't end up being cheese slopes, and I think actually this section I end up redoing anyway, so those aren't there. I'm pretty sure they aren't there at all at the end, but there is a couple spots even at the end where I use cheese slopes to represent that new, I think it's like a 1x1 piece, but it's rounded on the top, and it looks really cool, and I want to use it right here to represent the columns. But unfortunately, LDD does not currently have that piece, and who knows if it ever will. So I just use cheese slopes to represent it, and then I go and replace it later in other programs. But funnily enough, somebody did discover, apparently, like, seemingly discovered a new LDD update today that I saw. They just discovered the URL on LEGO's website of, I forget what version, I think it's like 4.12, whatever the next one is supposed to be. So they discovered that. So actually, I followed the link and it downloaded, and I used the installer and installed it and everything, and it didn't actually end up updating. I'm pretty sure it was a real new version. So I don't know if they're like releasing it or what, or if they're still even trying to support it, or if it's just something that's been there for a long time and nobody had the links, nobody knew about it. But yeah, I went and downloaded it and everything and installed it. And it only ended up changing my preferences file, which was super weird. So it's not like an actual update as far as adding new bricks. But if it was like just barely uploaded, who knows when it was added or whatever, but if it was just barely done, then that could be a good sign that they're planning to release something, some sort of update. So you never know. I guess we'll see. Kind of a long shot. I doubt it will happen, but never know. Yeah, so anyway, we kind of got the first level done. Like I said, I'll end up reworking those top 2 sections later on, just because it works out so much better to do it the way I was doing the rest of the build, like studs on the side. But for now, that's what it is. I like the little, I guess, entranceway and the stuff built up on top of it. I think it looks really nice. And now we're just going to do the first of like the, I'd say, main levels, where they're where like the main structure of it is. And all of like these levels, pretty much the rest of the build is mostly the same in regards to design, the real difficulty. And that's kind of why it was kind of boring too, because it's a lot of the same and it's just kind of building it up. At least for me it was. I don't remember how much of that I recorded actually, because I knew it would be boring. So yeah, so it's just a lot of this, all these windows and everything, and it ends up looking really nice, but it was kind of boring to build. So where was I going with that? I had a whole thing in mind. Oh yeah, so basically the rest of the build is just this, more or less. It's more, the difficulty was this, but trying to make it work with the changing of the levels and their widths and everything. And then as we get towards the very top, the very last level is kind of like off-center and has some more interesting details to it a little bit. And then the top is definitely has some interesting stuff going on. So that's more where it gets exciting again. Yeah, but for the rest of this, it was mostly just technical stuff, trying to fit this all in like how I wanted it to go. And I'm pretty sure I honestly actually didn't end up recording a lot of doing the other sides. And that was also why it took me so long too, because a lot of times, like when I'm recording stuff, there's the added pressure knowing that I'm recording it. That just keeps me going and I don't really stop. But once I got the framework down, there wasn't really like a lot keeping me going other than knowing I had to finish it at some point. So yeah. And yeah, so we're starting on the second level now, second of 3. I'll just call them levels, it's easier. And we're really just editing the width a little bit and copying it over. It's nothing too exciting. And it's honestly nothing too complicated yet, just because it's this same thing. And the real complication comes with trying to fit it all together, all the 4 sides together, because I didn't really account for that when I accounted for it, and like I knew it was going to have to happen at some point, but the way I accounted for it didn't end up being super useful. So yeah, that's mostly where the complication comes in, as I'm sure I've already said. But this was a really cool level. I guess I'll go back to talking about Odyssey. This was a really fun level. Of course, New Donk City is obviously the most popular one. It's the one everybody was excited about. And I think it looks really cool. Like, it's definitely not undeserved, the popularity, for sure. And I really liked the night theme of this level. And I liked a lot of the enemy designs in Mario Odyssey, because they were definitely different, which I love, but they were also kind of familiar. Like, you could imagine them. I mean, you didn't have to imagine them because they were there, but you could totally, like, they fit in with Mario's aesthetics so nicely. And they're like, I don't know, I feel like I haven't actually, don't kill me, I haven't played Sunshine, because I never had a GameCube. I had a Super Nintendo, and then I went straight to the Wii. And I played GameCube games on my friends' consoles, but never Sunshine. So I missed out on that, but just from looking back in it, and I know I'm missing the context of having like played it. But from what I've seen of it, with that in mind, to me, a lot of the enemy designs seem like they're kind of out of place, personally, and that's why, I mean, a lot of them have never shown up again. And I could see that being part of the reason. Whereas I could see like a lot of Odyssey enemies showing up in the next game, even if it's not Odyssey themed at all. And yeah, I know they added the update, but I love the Captain Toad games so much. Oh, I love them. And I would love it so much if there was like, if they were to do like an Odyssey version, just a brand new game, not like the updated levels like they did when they ported the game to the Switch, but like a whole brand new game built around Odyssey rather than 3D World like the last one was. And it would be so much fun. It fits in with Captain Toad's aesthetics so nicely. Even just the idea of it, of just like exploring all these different kingdoms and everything, I think it would be super cool. Oh, I'd love any other Captain Toad game. So take that as you will. But I think that specifically would be so nice. So we're actually on the 3rd level already. Like I said, it goes pretty fast because it's a lot of the same. But 3rd level, just have a nice little twist in that it has the corners kind of come in a little bit. And it's really not a lot, but it's enough to give it like a little bit of distinction, and I think it looks nice. Actually, while I was building this, one of the nicest references I had was the stage in Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Ultimate. I can't even remember any names today. Yeah, so there's, the stage there, and I used that as reference, and that's more detailed than the actual model, but I ended up just going with actual models proportions anyway. But anyway, that's it. So I hope you're looking forward to finishing it off and coloring it. I hope you enjoyed. So feel free to like and subscribe, and have a great day.